Good morning, church family. I'm here with four of the members that went with us to Mexico. There were five from our church and 29 people in all. We did a lot of projects ranging from erecting a pole barn to putting on a pastor's retreat with activities for the children, etc. So we're here to talk about it. Many of you have prayed for us and you have supported us. And so we want you to know what took place. And thanks so much for the many of you who have asked, when are we going to hear about Mexico? Your interest really fuels the passion that we have to keep going. So first of all, we have Misty and Abby, Vanette, and they're going to talk about some of the things that were important to them on the trip. Hey, Misty.
Hey, Jim. Abby and I are going to talk a little bit and show some pictures that we took on the trip. And do you want me to start? Okay. This is my second time going, and I'm very excited about my third time to go. I feel like I'm building a relationship with the Mexicans down there, and I really miss them this time. Last time we did a lot of construction projects, and that was fun and fulfilling to see the end of those, but this time I got to spend a lot more time with the people and with the children, and that was really fulfilling for me. My first picture is of Jim and I with our translator Erica, and we spoke at the pastor's retreat. That was pretty amazing for me. I have never spoke at something like that. I've done a lot of women's retreats and things like that. But the first time I spoke, I was really nervous. I was depending on myself a lot and how they thought about me or if I was going to offend them. Or I ended up changing my talk at the last minute, and it was a disaster. And I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go back to bed. I was like 2 days out from recovering from being with the flu, all in bed all day. So Drew said, I'll pray for you, and you should talk about what God put on your heart. And she really encouraged me and gave me the confidence. And she did come in and pray the whole time I was speaking, and it was an amazing talk. We welcomed the Spirit, and God really spoke through me. And I got lots of comments from that, and I was really, I was really glad I got to honor God in that way. The second picture is a little bit scary to moms out there. It's us erecting the pole barn. I think they're about 20 feet off the ground, and we were lifting these like 1,500-pound iron beams, just manpower, woman power. And so it was really fun to see how everybody could work together. We had a couple smashed fingers, but other than that, no major injuries. The third picture really shows the theme that I felt this time of relationships and building on those relationships from the past. This is Sandra's family, Sandra and Manuel, and their children. And Sandra is one that you may have heard her story before, that she, when she was single and working at the boarding school, she adopted two starving Tarahumara children. And Sandra, the tallest daughter there, is one of those children. So she has a really amazing story, and she and I are working together to start a sponsorship, financial sponsorship for the children at the boarding school. We've already been in contact by email, and if you're interested in that or the story of how that came to be, I'd love to talk to you about that.
So we'll be hearing more about that later.
Yes,
huh?
you will. Yes.
We've actually asked about that quite a few years, so that's really exciting you were able to do that.
Well, and I feel like God has put that on my heart for several years, and I've talked to Brenda about it in the past, and Brenda was always like, that's a great idea. You know, like, I have a lot of things to do, but if you want to do it, and I just kept thinking, God, I don't have time, I don't know how to start, I don't know how to do any of this, and really, me being sick with the flu, every day I kind of had to rest. And one day in particular, I laid down to take a little nap, and when I woke up, God put it on my heart right then, go talk to Sandra. And I kept making excuses like, well, maybe she's busy, and she was our cook for the week, and she was trying to do an online class, and all these things. And when I went downstairs, she was just quietly sitting in the kitchen all by herself. So God gave me that opportunity to get to speak with her. And it was super special to me to see the way her husband Manuel interacted with their children. Just watching that family and seeing him just be a dad and play with this little girl and his little boy, and that was really fun as well. The last picture I'll just throw up there is our kind of foreman on our construction jobs, Enrique. He and I have a funny joke going that since I have 8 children, he always asks me if my husband is Mexican. So that's what he's whispering in my ear as they're taking the picture. So I'm laughing because he always says, "Your husband Mexicano," and he always says it really funny like that. So, but he's a great guy and another relationship
Good.
builder that's really fun. So,
Well, let's hear from Abby.
So this was my first time going, and I really hope I can get to go again because it was a really cool experience. And the first picture I have is of a cracked car windshield. And it's just a bunch of kids in a circle, and I'm with a translator, teaching the kids. So that was just a really cool experience. And the next picture is of a little boy, and in the background is a little girl, and their names was James and Luna. And for me, it was kind of like, I speak almost no Spanish, and the kids spoke no English. And even with the language barrier, they just were little kids and they would just talk, and all you had to do was sit there and listen. But if they did want something, that was kind of a challenge. So that was fun to interact with the kids.
oh, your phone died.
Evening worshiping. I think you're
Oh
gonna say
yeah,
something about
the
that.
last picture that I had was a picture of some of the people on our team that one night they just pulled out a guitar and started singing, and before we knew it, 2 hours had passed by. And so it was just a really nice 2 hours that we just sat there and played songs and worshiped and really gave glory to God. And it was really nice because there was some people that were from Mexico that were down there, and they would just sit and listen, and they could sing some of their songs in Spanish, and we sang some of ours in English, and it was a really nice time.
Good. So I hear both of you want to go back. That's
Yep.
exciting. Would you encourage others to go?
Yes, I definitely would.
And even though there's some concern about safety,
There is, but I don't know. You get down there and it's like it's their way of life, and they're used to it, and they seem to be very calm about it. You know, we were talking, Jim and I were talking at the airport on the way there about how you know, the tornadoes had just come through and devastated Nashville, but we don't say, "Oh, we shouldn't go to Nashville. There might be tornadoes." You know, that we can't always live our life in fear of what's going to happen, because we came back to this coronavirus pandemic, and it was an amazing culture shock, but thinking we're not coming back to a safe place in our own country. So, you know, God protected us, and like Abby was saying, just over and over, we see God's protection down there. Even my flu, it was a day, and then I was up and going, and no one else has had the flu yet. And I think that's a supernatural protection of God.
and we have a chance to minister to the people in their struggle with the drug cartel. So Monsi's family, and then Monsi's mom and father-in-law and mother-in-law.
Yeah.
We prayed with both of them, and they were very touched. They were moved to tears as we prayed for their safety and that Monsi
Right.
could return. He's not living with the family now, and so those were great opportunities for us to show love and just come alongside and support them. And we have Callie and Drew, and we were so excited to have them come. and some challenges to get all of their family on board to support them. But they felt God wanted them to be there, and Callie felt that too. And so the two of them came and did a great job. Drew, I think you're going to just talk together.
Yes.
And so share whatever you guys want to share. But I do want to hear the turkey sound.
Okay. This was our first mission trip for both of us, and so Callie's a little bit ahead of me because she's 10 and I'm in my 30s, so little delayed start on this, but it was worth it. It was an adventure. So we're just gonna dive into the pictures because we have a lot. So the first one is one Callie picked out. Do you want to tell them about the picture?
Yeah. So when we got there after the next day of like the broken windshield and stuff, I looked out, and it just so happened that there's this river, and right across the river was a farm with a white turkey, and I've never seen such a thing. It was like white with like all the plumage and stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's a very white turkey.
So we had to take a picture.
And you can make the turkey sound.
Pretty good. We'll take her turkey hunting. Okay, so the next picture is fun because last year they'd done a lot of work to make a dam. I think that was last year. And so we had a lot of repeat people on this trip. And so they were standing up on this rock wall, like all these engineer students, just in reverence that this dam was still there. Just so proud. One told me he would probably propose to his wife at the dam site. All right, so the next picture is of the little church in Rio Chico where they do their worship on Sunday. And that was kind of fun to go in and see. The ceiling does need painted, and Jim promised that we would paint that at some point and have a big fiesta. So they're all excited about that.
Next year.
Next year, he promised.
Next trip.
The third picture is our fearless leader, Jim, who loves being down there. He smiled so wide that whole trip, and so we had to capture some of that happy smile. I think sometimes when you're doing what God's called you to do, you just really, it just brings a lot of joy.
Amen.
The next picture is of the orchard. What did we do in the orchard, Callie?
So we were looking at the trees, and Jim was telling us about like the different types of trees. Like they had apple trees, plum trees, and plums grow on a tree.
Anyway, keep going.
and
I never remember if it's plum or apricot. And then some peaches.
and then we like prayed for the orchard, and me, Abby, and a couple of other teenagers learned a song from this guy in our team, and later on we went down in the orchard and painted the trees.
Yes, and I was very proud because some of those trees were in swampy areas, and they'd given me a paint roller, so we just extended that sucker all the way out to about 5 feet and just reached in there. So I did manage to do it without getting muddy.
And what was the point of painting the trees?
To keep the bugs off.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clever. All the orchards down there are painted from just a little bit on the bottom.
I actually got up down to the branches and accident.
I think it'll be okay. All right. Next picture.
The next picture is at the pastor's retreat. Abby, a girl named Winter, and a girl named Winter are playing tag and with all the kids. And the picture shows a girl named
Jocelyn?
yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah.
She knew how to
Jocelyn.
She knew how to say like horse in English, but that was like it. I knew, and I was like, nay, horse. I'm like,
She was a delight. She taught us a lot of Spanish. She's a very articulate little girl.
yeah, she taught us how to say bunny.
Hmm
And
That was
like-
fun. And then who's the next picture up? Kelly?
So the next picture is of me and my friend that I made down there, Sandra. She's 12 years old, and
class together.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. And the pastor's retreat was probably my favorite part, just working with the kids. It was fun because we couldn't speak each other's language, so we had to get really creative on the games we played. So a lot of tag was played.
So in this picture, this next picture, there's me, but the girl I'm sitting right across from, I'm like, she speaks a lot of English,
Hmm.
but she doesn't know all of it. So, but we really had some full conversations. Like when I first met her, she said the cookies are good with the coffee, and I'm like, because I do not like coffee. It's not my favorite. So yeah, we became good friends.
Callie, we can see that you really love the kids that are there, and they know that, and it means so much to them. And it's one of the reasons that we love taking children with us, is because you relate so well to the other children and their parents. So thanks for coming with us.
The next picture is Abby with a little boy named James. He was adorable. He was very stoic, but when it came time to take his picture, he took a pink sticker and put it in the middle of his forehead and insisted he have his picture taken that way. And so that was sweet. His grandma thought that was a hoot. So yeah, he was a sweet little boy. And then in the next picture, we have Misty, Abby, Callie, and then we have Michaela and Luna are the two little girls. And we had so much fun with these kids. It was actually kind of tearful to say goodbye to them. So Michaela gave us lots and lots of hugs, and she kept giving us crafts that she'd made and some of the other kids had made. She snatched their crafts too to give to us. So that was a tearful goodbye, but it was a great time.
Next picture.
Yep, next one's yours.
So we had a church service on Sunday in the evening, so you would probably all be home. So, so we had like we had 4 goals. One is Abby's cousin Hannah, a girl named Winter, a lady named Nikki. I think one was named Emily. Then we have
Corinne.
Corinne.
She had a ukulele.
Oh yeah. Then we have, so that's 5. And then we have a guy playing the
Mandolin.
mandolin. His name is DJ, and
Yeah,
So,
they
yeah.
did great. It was fun to worship. Everybody was recording them, and it was a lot of fun. And Abby went and taught us, this is the next picture, the Sunday school class. And Callie went up there too, and God bless Abby. She didn't really have an interpreter, but she had a girl that kind of spoke Spanish in our group, and then they had one of the local guys. So Abby would say the message to this girl who would kind of try to say it in Spanish to the local guy, who would then convey it in Spanish to the children down the line. And she pressed on through it, but I'm sure that's teaching out of your comfort zone. So good for Abby.
He just finally just grabbed the book and started reading
Yep.
from
And
it.
then he just started to look at the pictures and say, act them out.
Yeah.
So it was fun. The kids, I think, had a good time.
Abby
yeah.
was a real trooper,
She
because
was.
every time we scheduled her to teach something, we had an interpreter for her. Only somebody else would be the interpreter, so I think there was only one time she actually had an interpreter for her.
You know, God's language is universal. Hopefully some got through.
Yeah.
It was fun. But yes, the church is alive and well in Mexico, and God is working, and he definitely is not just contained into the U.S. They have incredible worship services, and it was one of the ladies told me down there, well, you don't need to speak the language to know God's spirit's worshiping, or we're worshiping in spirit. And I said, well, that is true.
Thank
So.
you. We're so glad you guys came. I want to just conclude by telling a few of the things that I was involved in. I, by default, led the basketball camp this year, and we had a real struggle. The basketballs didn't arrive, so instead of 60, we had 6, and so it was quite a lot of turmoil the first day. But we were organized by the second, and felt like I actually got to teach some of the young men some basketball skills. I had a first for me. I was able to stay overnight with one of the Mexican families. He has a sawmill in town, and so is fairly wealthy. And to get to sit in their home and hear their views about Donald Trump, about the alliance history in the area, about the cartels, was really fascinating. And she said something to me that I've never had said to us. She said, "We respect you so much for coming to Mexico. A lot of groups won't come. They used to, they don't anymore. They're afraid of the situation. But you come. And we respect that so much. And we saw so many ways that by our coming, we were an encouragement to them." I had the privilege on Sunday morning going to Independencia and installing Gonzalo as their new pastor. Gonzalo was one of the first pastors that I met, this burly Mexican with a heart full of love and joy for Jesus. And he had to leave the country for many years to get some of his debts paid off, but now is back, and there is a great deal of rejoicing that Gonzalo is back with them. And just the level of Christian leaders and pastors and worship teams seems to be growing and increasing every year. And we're excited about the future of the Mexican church. I want to tell you about a project that I have, and that is I want to bring the worship band from Peña Blanca to the United States. It's made up of 5 kids ranging from 10 to 15, and they are unbelievable. 2 of the kids, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, have won mariachi singing contests in their area, full dress, drama, flair, high tenor, soprano voices that are full. And I just think they would ignite some of our churches if you could get a chance to see them. So pray with me that that will be a project we'll complete next year. Well, thank you. We've taken quite a bit of your time. Hopefully this is continues to be of interest. You'll continue to pray and support. And together we'll come alongside our Mexican friends. It's a benefit to both of us. We help them, but they inspire us with their love and their passion for Jesus, their sacrifice. And so it's the giving goes both ways. And we come back to the United States more determined to support them and serve Christ here in the calling that God has given to us. Thank you. This will be the end of our broadcast today. We appreciate you being here with us. Bye.